Here we go again, comic fans, with another round of fictional fighting on Grudge Match, the show that abducts the denizens of the top two comic worlds and pits them against each other to discover the true champions. Today's match clashes two elemental opponents against each other in a test of chrome dome transmuters. From DC, it's the elemental man, Metamorpho, and from Marvel, the big man with a ball and chain, it's the absorbing man. In addition to the similarities in powers between these two, they were also both unwittingly granted their powers through mystical means, though they chose to utilize those powers in startlingly different ways, and also both were created a mere 2 months apart. So taking a look at them individually and starting with Metamorpho, first created in January of 1965. His real name is Rex Mason, and he was under the employ of Simon Stagg, who found out that Mason was dating his daughter and became very angry with him, decided to kill him. And on a expedition to uncover a Egyptian tomb where he was supposed to be killed by Stagg's henchmen, Rex Mason was exposed to the magical Orb of Ra, and the energy from that mystical artifact transformed him into the elemental man Metamorpho. Now, as Metamorpho, he has the ability to change any portion of himself into any element he chooses. Originally, he was only able to transform into elements that were found in the human body, but he extended his powers throughout the years, and now he can transform into any element, be it solid, liquid, or gas. In addition to being able to change all the parts of his body, he also has elasticity and general shape-shifting when it comes to his body. So, much like Plastic Man or Mr. Fantastic, he can alter his body into a variety of different shapes. That can be weaponry, to make his hands and fists into bladed weapons or hammer fists, things like that. He can also form more complex structures like mechanical objects out of his body as well. In addition to those powers, he also has general invulnerability because his body doesn't really have organs in it anymore. He's no longer human in any way, so he has a general invulnerability, though not complete invulnerability. He can be damaged under certain proper circumstances. He's unable to retake human form, so this has led to problems in his life, especially his personal life, with his relationship with Simon Stagg's daughter, because he's not able to be with her as man and woman. And so he's always sort of viewed his condition as a problem and something to be cured, but that has changed over the years as he became more heroic and became a member of the Justice League, became a founding member of the Outsiders. He began to more fully accept his abilities, his condition, and his role as a superhero in the DC Universe. The Absorbing Man, created a mere 2 months after Metamorpho in March of 1965. His real name is Carl Crusher Creel, and he is, and always has been, a more villainous character. He was a small-time crook, and he was a prize fighter. He even has fought the father of Daredevil in the ring, battling Jack Murdock, and he was in jail at a certain point, and he was chosen by Loki, the Asgardian god of mischief, to be a pawn in Loki's constant war with his brother Thor. So Loki slipped a magical potion into Carl Creel's food while he was in prison, and it granted him all of his abilities. Now, as the Absorbing Man, he has the ability to absorb properties of anything that he touches. Absolutely anything he comes into contact with, he can absorb the properties of it. That includes anything solid, liquid, gas, or even energy. Absolutely anything he touches, he can gain the abilities of that thing. That includes even mystical objects, like when he comes into contact with Thor's hammer, mystical hammer Mjolnir, he can gain the powers and abilities of that weapon. So this made him an incredibly formidable opponent that is capable of going toe-to-toe with the biggest hitters of the Marvel Universe, including Thor himself. In addition to being able to change into anything he comes into contact with, he also has some limited shape changing. He can't change his body with the same level of elasticity and control that Metamorpho can, but he can do some limited shape changing, such as turning his hands into hammer fists when he absorbs the metal from a hammer, or potentially gaining spikes if he touches something that has solid spikes on it. Also, he has the ability to alter his size. He doesn't just absorb the physical properties of the things he touches, but if he touches something large enough, he can take on the mass of that object as well, gaining incredible size and scaling up his abilities along with it, his strength and invulnerability. He oftentimes likes to grow to mammoth sizes when he has to fight very powerful heroes or flyers or very agile characters like Spider-Man that he can't keep up with in the air. He just turns himself into a giant size and then he's more able to fight them. When he's in his altered state, he is virtually completely invulnerable. Even if he takes the form of something that can be broken, like rock, he can just reform his body. And he doesn't have to return to human in between changes from one form to another. He can instantly move from one form to another, so long as he is in physical contact with the thing he is seeking to change into. These powers have allowed Absorbing Man to be a constant thorn in the side of many of the characters in the Marvel Universe, and he's fought virtually all of the heroes of the Marvel Universe at some point or another. So having examined both of these characters, it is now time to determine what would happen if they were to bring their formidable powers to bear against one another and see who would come out on top in a one-on-one contest. That winner's going to be Absorbing Man. Both of these characters have a couple of trump cards in their favor that the other lacks. For Metamorpho, he has the ability to change into any element he likes without having to actually come in contact with it. That's something Absorbing Man can't do. Absorbing Man has to actually be in contact with something in order to take on its properties. So that's something Metamorpho doesn't necessarily have to do. And he also has the greater elasticity and shape-shifting than Absorbing Man does. So these are a couple of trumps that Metamorpho has in his favor. However, Absorbing Man's trumps are that he can turn into absolutely anything. Where Metamorpho is limited to solid, liquid, and gaseous elements, Absorbing Man can turn into all of those plus energy sources as well. So he's been able to turn into things like electricity or fire or cosmic energy, and it wouldn't be difficult for him to get his hands on some electrical source and turn into a being of pure energy. That would be something that could do more damage to Metamorpho. Also, Absorbing Man's size alteration is a major trump card. All he has to do is touch a building or touch the street or touch something sufficiently large that he can absorb the mass and gain mammoth size, mammoth strength as a result. Now, even though Metamorpho is highly resistant to physical damage, having a wrecking ball the size of a house dropped on him, because Absorbing Man's ball and chain can also grow and change with him, would certainly be something that would be a very difficult injury for Metamorpho to recover from. Or turning into an energy source, a giant living lightning creature, and blasting Metamorpho with that kind of energy could also be a severe problem for Metamorpho. On the flip side, anything Metamorpho could turn into to try to attack Absorbing Man probably wouldn't be that effective, because even though Absorbing Man can't change instantly the same way Metamorpho can, he has to be in contact with something. Well, anything Metamorpho turns into and it uses to attack Absorbing Man, he can then immediately change into. So if Metamorpho turns himself into steel and goes to punch Absorbing Man can then absorb that steel and become it himself. And as previously stated, Absorbing Man does not have to return to human form in between changes. So as soon as he changes into something else, he's immediately invulnerable and can shift right to something else, change size, change elements, however he likes. As long as he never goes back to human form during the course of the fight, he never becomes vulnerable. So the trumps in Absorbing Man's favor are just going to prove to be more potent than the ones playing into Metamorpho, allowing Absorbing Man Carl Crusher Creel to take the win of this grudge match. So message me down below, let me know what you think of the outcome of this fight, and as always, suggestions for future grudge matches, and we'll see everyone on the next edition of Grudge Match.